Hey everyone, Chris Sawyer here. The Varietal Show is back. I am here in Paso Robles. Everyone, have you been to Paso Robles? And if you haven't, you need to come here. This is my great friend, Adam LaZarre. Today is a very special show for me and for this amazing show just in general, the Varietal Show, because Adam LaZarre called me back in April, I think it was April of 2020. You guys might remember that year. We had some hard times back then, and people weren't supposed to see each other. And he called me and he said, "Chris, I just need you to taste my wines. I'm up in Sonoma County. I'm doing a little something up here. I need to come by." That was the first recording of the Varietal Show. And technically, all I did was we sat out in my road with bicyclists coming by, and it was super fun. But we talked about your great new projects and everything that was going on. Adam lives here in Paso Robles. He and I have been great friends for so long as wine judges. And, you know, I'm not the winemaker, but I sure know some good ones, and this is one of them. And so, you know, I'm down here, and I said, you know, we got to do a new show. Because what happened was I did the original recording, and then people said, I just put it out on Facebook, and people are like, "How can I be on that show? Oh my gosh, when's the next one coming out?" I'm like, "Oh, damn." And that's how the Varietal Show started, you guys. And it's because of this man calling me and going, "Man, you got to taste these wines." Thank you for having me here. This is his new little office, his swanky place here in Paso. We're looking kind of towards the downtown area. Really great region, obviously, or actually, the downtown's actually that way, but you know, here I am in your neck of the woods, in your hood.
This is my hood, you know. And it's so funny you said it, because 2 years ago when we filmed that original one, I got a chance to go over to your house, and you live in God's country. I mean,
thank you.
You talk about there's no green anywhere in California except for outside of his house and the hills above it. And he set up a chair right in the road.
We were 6 feet away from each other, clinking glasses, and that was
socially responsible.
Thank you, Simone Haslam, my wonderful wife, for filming that too, because that's how it happened, and people started calling, and so okay, let's put a show out, and that's how this all started. So we've had almost 90, I think over 90 episodes of this. That have gone on since then, but it's because of you, my friend. I want you to know
because of you and your skills as a somm and journalist. But.
Yeah. Well, so I thought it would be fun. I'm here in your neck of the woods, and so I thought this would be good. The Mosh Pit blend to start out here. So this is a white wine blend. We are here also at Hospice de Rhone, which is a great event that happens every year. Well, bi-yearly, and you know, obviously it hasn't happened for a little while, but we're here. So we thought we'd start out with a Rhone variety kind of blend, and this is got a little Marsanne and Roussanne in it.
Kind of, yes. It's mostly Marsanne and Roussanne, and it's a couple of the favorite varieties. My wife and I put this together. We really started. You know, we've had our LaZarre wines since I think 2003. It was strictly Pinot Noir to begin with. We branched out into Sauvignon Blanc and Albarino, and some other things. We still do Merlot. It's a big one, but we wanted to have. It's one thing to put together wines that go out to restaurants and markets, but it's another thing to have something special for your wine club.
Yeah.
You know, you have a wine club. You're a winery. You have a wine club. You want something that sets your fans apart.
Yeah.
You give them something that's different. And so we started this as a wine club only wine. It ended up getting some really, really good scores and a lot of attention. So it's kind of branched out. We don't do a whole lot of this retail. Yeah. But we do we still keep it primarily for the wine club, and so we do a white, a red, and a pink now.
Yep.
And so this is our Mosh Pit White, and it is effectively each year is about 60% Marsanne barrel fermented, 30% barrel fermented Roussanne, and 10% Gewürztraminer.
And Gewürztraminer in there too. So we're talking a little bit of Alsatian style wine here, and so what a fun wine! I mean, it just tastes great. And you know, we were just down at the fish. What's our little
Gaucho,
fish? The fish Gaucho here in Paso Robles. If you guys haven't been here, you got to stop there. Yeah. Mezcal, great list of mezcal. Just so you know, but their hot sauce, if you ask for it, it's legit. It's super legit. I'm still numb right here, but it's not good. But this is just reminding me of the great kinds of food that we have. We're getting into May. We're getting into these kinds of seasons here. You talk about freshness, and this is a nice, fresh appeal to it. And, you know, we love Roussanne, and Marsanne just because they're so aromatic. But the Gewürztraminer adds that little kick, and it certainly is an active wine, you know, in the mouth.
Well, these are certainly grapes that, with the exception of Marsanne and Roussanne together, but these are grapes that would never show up together in a blend in its natural environment. And so, but in Paso Robles, you know, thanks to some of the people like Anarchy, you know, Four Vines, Saxon, Lenny Collado, a lot of these guys kind of blaze a trail for these really unusual blends. You know, people have always been kind of scared to do that stuff, but out here, people don't think twice about blending Pinot Noir and Zinfandel and Cabernet and whatever tastes good, a lot of Grenache. Yeah. So we figured, you know, we're from Paso, we can do this. So that was kind of the whole...
We's in Paso. Love it. Fantastic. Cool. And this is from the LaZarre Wines. You can look that up online. Fantastic wines. Your Pinots are great. Everything he does is great. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But one of the wonderful things he does is a bunch of stuff. And so some of you guys might know, you know, some of the brands, but this one is Portlandia. Some of you might remember the show. And actually, this was you had the rights before the show came out.
You remember that? Yeah, no, they actually came to us, believe it or not. Yeah. So if you guys are familiar, those of you who are familiar with the Portland area, that beautiful giant copper like Valkyrie, that statue out in front of it. I don't know if it's the Justice Building or something. Yeah. But downtown, it's the second largest copper statue in the country behind the Statue of Liberty. Yeah. And her name is Portlandia. Portlandia. And so that's where the wine brand came from. Damian Davis was the guy who was the founder of it. He worked for us. When we acquired his brand, we acquired him, and he's a lot of fun. And so
Portlandia.
Those are his sunglasses or his regular glasses that he has on the label. But it's become probably one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing Oregon brand in the country. And we're in
2020 right here. Interesting year for all of us. But this was a good one for Pinot Noir up there. You know, everything's a demand up there, and the fact is that. One thing I want to say for Willamette Valley is, you know, here in California, we have really consistent weather. It's pretty consistent. It doesn't really go like this. Up there, you never know what Mother Nature's going to do. And I mean, they've had tsunamis that have totally affected them, and they've had, you know, fires, and they've had a lot of weird weather conditions that they're not really used to. They've also had 3 of the hottest years in recorded history right in a row that they just weren't used to. So every vintage up there is very distinctive. What was interesting about this besides just 2020?
There's obviously a lot of stigma behind 2020, and not everything got tainted. I know some people want to call it smoke impacted, but that's not impacted. Doesn't necessarily imply good or bad. I still say smoke tainted, but. You know, you made an interesting point about having 3 hot years in a row, and we're going to be getting more of those because of global warming. And I think, you know, Oregon wines right now, anyone looks at the numbers, they're on fire.
They're on fire.
Oregon, the Pinots, you can't find a single Pinot Gris grape, and I make Pinot Gris up there. It's good luck. I'm running out of wine as fast as we can make it. And I think part and parcel is that in years past, Oregon Pinots have been kind of hard for the typical American palate to wrap their arms around. They're very serious, austere. Yeah. They can range from Burgundian to very thin and sharp and focused. Yeah. Whereas the warmer it gets up there, the bigger they're going to get. The more almost. I want to say this is terrible. I want to say the more California.
Well, you know, it's strange, and one advantage that they have up there is that in the fall they're always behind us as far as when they. You know, the bud break and all these kinds of things. They're super behind us. But where they make up for that is when the longer days up there. Yeah. I mean, because if you think about the fall time in Alaska, there's days that are 24 hours. They are light there. And so they have longer daytime light there. Yeah. So that is a super advantage to Oregon, to Willamette Valley, and also Washington, and you know Columbia Valley.
They get 2 extra hours of daylight up, and I just found that out. I'm making wine up in Washington. We'll look at that in a sec, but they get 2 extra hours of daylight.
I know, isn't that crazy?
We do hit down here,
So this is a really nice example. I love how also it makes it super user friendly. On the back, it says you know, balanced acidity, fine cherry aromas. It does have that actually, but I like the food pairings here. You know, medium textured. Pairs great with braised meats, wild mushroom risotto. Oh yeah, you've always got me there. And grated Parmesan. You know, like Nice. I mean, that's very user friendly when you get to know what this actually, what can I use this for? Oh, here's some suggestions from these guys. I think they just do such a great job. You know?
Yeah, Pinot Noir is such a versatile grape, but being a trained somm,
Yep.
it just goes with so many different things. And when you start talking about mushrooms and truffles and risottos and pig and the other white meat.
What I like about this too is it just has a liveliness to it. You know, it's got good acid. I mean, this is pretty crisp actually.
It's bright.
It's pretty bright.
Yeah.
I mean, there's red fruit, but there's also some dark fruits. You know, there's a little touch of bitterness, but then it has this core sweetness of just ripeness. You know.
It was a good year to get your grapes off the vine a little early.
Yeah.
Which we did. So, I mean, Pinot Noir already has a kind of a smoky component to it, just like the Syrahs do. And so for some of the people that did release 2020s, and we did have a particular vineyard that we lost entirely, so I'm just bye-bye. But the ones that did release have some pretty fantastic wines. You know, they were able to get in. I think the 2020s that are on the market now are far closer to what we think of traditional Oregon Pinots, because we did have to, once the fire started, the grapes had to come off the vine.
Yeah.
And so you get these bright, beautiful cherry wines. So.
Unbelievable. Well, tasting fantastic. Always good to talk about Oregon. I love that area, and it's so great that, here we are in California, this man's making Oregon wines. And it's just, he's not the only one. I mean, you've got some great people like Aaron Jordan, Adam Lee, and others that have been doing this for a long time. But you know what? We respect Oregon so much here, and Willamette Valley is a very special place in my heart. You guys have seen some of the shows I've done with Larry Stone and all these great producers up there, Sokol Blauser and Domaine Serene and all these kinds of people that I like so much up there. And it's always great to visit there. But here we are in Paso, you guys, tasting Oregon wine. So moving on. We've got, we're going to do, let's just do a little taste of this because we got to do one more Portlandia, but it is from Columbia Valley. So a lot of people don't realize Columbia Valley and Columbia River. Well, Columbia Valley itself is a little bit different because it's part Washington and part Oregon. And so you got some stuff going on in here that's a little bit different, and it's also very inland. So you can talk all you want about Washington's Riesling, which really kind of put them on the map originally, but this is not where you're really growing that much Riesling, not super concentration. I mean, you do have some there, but Cabernet Sauvignon can grow there, and that's not exactly where Riesling is grown in Germany, but this is a different area. What's it like to you to be up there? Because we'll talk about Paso in a second, but what's it like, and what do these conditions do for you?
I think they have some challenges, of course. They have late frosts in the spring, and they have early frosts and inclement weather in the fall during the picking season. But in a good year where everything is allowed to ripen, they get 2 extra hours of sunlight, which is great. And sunlight is critical for getting rid of that herbaceous, that bell pepper component. Yeah. And so
that's important.
Yeah. So the wines, although they tend to be, because it's so far north, they tend to be a little more acid driven.
Yep.
And livelier, I guess, as a Cabernet goes. Yeah. I still think they retain some of that little green olive, black olive note. And you can make them in a bunch of different styles. I think a lot of this comes from the Horse Heaven Hills. Yeah. Which is a massive flat. Yeah, I mean, it's just like you see miles of nothing, gopher holes, and then all the vineyards are down at the south end, and they're just gorgeous.
They're just gorgeous.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. You represent a lot. I mean, he's got a Pabst Blue Ribbon hat on, you guys. I mean, this man represents. I mean, I love the nose on this. And I mean, I got to go up to Seattle recently, and I got to go to the first tasting since the pandemic of the Somms there. Love these guys up there. Love the women. Love everyone up there. And I got to go to a really great seminar too. I respect this area so much. And it's just fun to be able to taste it. And this is another Portlandia selection. And you might notice it's got Sasquatch on it. So, that Sasquatch is usually known to be seen up there. Of course, that.
I mean, that kind of represents the area. We moved Portlandia from being strictly an Oregon brand to a Pacific Northwest brand because we have the ability to. I'm still working on trying to convince my boss to let me make a great Washington State Merlot. That's my favorite in the world.
Oh,
when you think about a great.
I think it's actually gotten kind of kicked under the bucket because it's still. I mean, we were able to taste some of the late '90s recently of those, Washington Merlots. They were fantastic. Oh yeah, they blew everything else away on that table. It was like, oh my god.
Yeah, fantastic. It's a fantastic place to grow Merlot and other red grapes. So it's a lot of fun, and it gives me an opportunity. We're getting ready to release our first sparkling wine up there.
Oh wow,
the Method Champenois.
Yeah, a lot of sparkling wine going on up there in Washington State
and Oregon too.
Yeah, it's true. Here we go. Now Broadside is a little bit different. So this is the Broadside, and we are talking Paso Robles.
El Paso de Robles.
Robles. Yeah. So here we are. You know what really blows me away about this area? What is so different about this area? We look at the landscape here. You know, we were driving down through, the Monterey area, and you look over there, you see all the asparagus, or not asparagus, but artichokes all over the place. And then you come into this different zone where, you've got this sweeping landscape. It's total Steinbeck novel, completely surrounding you. Then you go and you see one of the world's largest contiguous vineyards in the world. It sits there around King City, just past King City. And then you see some little oil pumps going.
That's where there will be blood.
There will be blood. Yeah, and then you get to the old military station. And then you get to Paso Robles. So you've just gone through so many different subcultures on the way here. And then you get here and you're like, oh man, this is such a beautiful place. A lot of times when I think about it as a kid, it was a lot of nut trees here. And I mean, what's changed into is a completely different place. And I mean, you really got here at a time that, when did you land here? I mean, just in general.
I landed here in 2003, and there were probably a couple of dozen wineries at the time, and now, gosh, I want to say over 300.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I have no idea, but I can't. I used to know every winemaker and every winery, and we'd all get together, and but it just has exploded. And,
you were making the Han Estate wines. You were doing so great there, and those Han Estate wines, if you ever had one, you put a big print on that, and we appreciate that brand a lot. Here you are in this area. This is a special brand that you make besides your own brand. And tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so the Broadside, we do what you actually pulled out of the wine cellar is our Margarita Vineyard. So it's an upper tier. I do make a small quantity of this each year. Some of our very best grapes that go into our high-end, like Black Letter, which is our $70 bottle, hand-harvested, come from this particular vineyard.
Is it the Santa Margarita one, the Ancient Peaks?
Santa Margarita, it's Ancient Peaks. They own it. They own the appellation.
This is one of my favorite vineyards of all time. So you guys.
So this is Cabernet from the vineyard. 19 was it was a leaner year. It was a small harvest, but it tended to be a little leaner. So you got some more of the herb de Provence notes in there, along with some of the black cherry. And we do a Merlot there, which is actually bigger than the Cab, if you can imagine that. So this is a fun wine we get to do, and we make this because this is what myself and my winemakers like to drink, and it's a very cool climate. The Margarita Ranch is the coolest place in Paso, and so there are some years where Cabernet doesn't even ripen up.
So here's where it is, you guys. So if you pass through Paso and you're going south, you'll go through a little town just past us here, but then you'll start getting close to where we're going to go downhill into San Luis Obispo. Sorry, you know where I was passing. La Cuesta Grade. So here we go. We're going to go downhill, but before you go, there's one turn, and it's called Santa Margarita. And this is exactly where you go. But you just don't go to the little sweet town there. You go past that, about 5 miles. It's way out there. But this vineyard was not planted by the families that own this, the Ancient Peaks people, which is 3 families, and they're awesome people. It's actually Robert Mondavi that really came down there and said, this is an amazing piece of land. And if you look out there, what my biggest thing about it is, if you're in San Luis Obispo and you look up at the mountain, there's a big kind of radio tower there. It's on the other side of that radio tower. And the more important thing about it is uplifted sea soil. This is like where the tectonic plates shove this way up there. And how do we know that? there are these shells that are this big, and they weigh about 20 pounds.
It's on the label.
That's on the label. So they are amazing. And I remember when
ancient oysters.
Mike, the winemaker up there,
Mike Seiner,
Seiner is a great guy, and he's like, Sawyer, get out and open the gate. And I'm like, oh, dude, what's all this white stuff? He's like, oh, grab one, you'll find out. And sure enough, I grabbed one. It's like, oh my God, this is a huge shell. This came from underneath the ocean. This is prehistoric stuff, you guys. And it's just, wow, what a piece of land. And the property is amazing. It has a great water source. It also has a great kind of where you can go do the zip lines. And we did that for the Somme Journal one time. I brought the group up there and we did it. And it was awesome. But, this is a family-owned property, 3 families that are awesome people. And you know what? This is great. I didn't even realize that margarita. I just came up with that just right now, you guys, and it's kind of blowing me away. And now I'm seeing why you've got the shell.
You hit all the points. So we do a regular Paso Robles cab, which comes from. I use margarita fruit. Yep. I use fruit from the San Juan Creek sub-appellation, the Truesdale Vineyard, another SIP certified vineyard. Yep. Four Palms Vineyard out on the east side, and that's slightly more affordable, and it's more widely distributed. Yep. But the beautiful thing about Paso Robles is we have we have a whole bunch of sub-appellations here, and we have pretty much every climate you could imagine.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's at one edge of Paso it's too hot to grow grapes, and the other end is too cold to grow grapes. And it's like the Salinas Valley from north to south. And
exactly.
So you've got great places for Zinfandel. The Rhones love Paso Robles.
And we're finding so much about the cabs here. I mean, they've come out of, in my view, besides Justin and a few others like Gary Eberly. They just, it wasn't really something that you were known for here, and it's become a big deal here. Yeah, it's a very big deal, and it's what Cabernet is done. And this is what I was going to say too. It's when you come into this area and it looks special, and it is special, and you feel like you're a little bit like you're almost more south than here. You feel like you're almost on the verge of Mexico because everything you got the great horses, you've got everything. Yeah. But probably the most important thing to me is it is dry heat here. I don't really sweat, but I'm hot, and that's something that I'm not used to that, and I'm not that every time I come here I just feel this feels great, but it is a dry heat, and we don't have that in Northern California. We have wet heat, and we will sweat up there, believe me. But here, it's dry. It's just dry. You want to sweat, but it's already dry. Oh, okay, this is helpful.
And that's perfectly suited for a lot of the varieties, like the Syrah, that tend to rot from the inside out. They just, you look at humid weather, and they think just fall off the vine rotting. So dry heat limits that, so we can use less controls, chemical controls and things. That's why everyone is practicing either organic or sustainable farming practice, because whether you're certified or not doesn't matter. It makes good sense, because why put something on your vineyard if it really doesn't need it? Yeah, it takes a little extra work. So we're pretty proud of that, and I think it shows in the quality of the wines.
Absolutely. Well, you should be proud of all these wines because they're delicious. And I love this guy, and I'm glad you guys got to meet Adam LaZarre. If you didn't see the original show, and you can look that up too on the Varietal Show. It was the very first one. I just cannot believe people were going, Chris, how much do you cost? How much is this show? What's going on here?
Cost a couple bottles of wine.
It is all because he just stopped to see me. But you gotta love it when a winemaker calls you up in the middle of pandemic and just says, dude, we just gotta hang out. And I love this man, and I hope you guys follow him more. The Adam LaZarre, LaZarre Wines. .com, and he's my man, and we judge great competitions together, but we respect each other so much. And thanks for having me over.
You gonna see you at the competition this year?
Yeah, I'll be there. All right. State Fair, we always do it. But thanks to you guys once again for joining us for this amazing celebration of the Varietal Show. This was a special one, and you guys got to see it. And thanks once again. We'll be back next week, and thank you. Keep drinking great wines. Cheers.